Are you curious to know how European powers carved up an entire continent? Stay tuned to find out how Africa got its borders. All right, let's rewind to the late 19th century. We're talking about the period from about 1881 to 1914. Picture this. Europe was having a land rush like you wouldn't believe. Why? Two words: resources and power. European nations were hungry for natural resources and new markets. They wanted to flaunt their power too. The story begins in Europe, where the Industrial Revolution was in full swing. Factories were popping up everywhere and they needed raw materials to keep the machines running. But Europe itself didn't have enough resources to meet the demand. So European powers looked to Africa, a continent rich in minerals, fertile land and other valuable resources. They saw an opportunity to not only fuel their industrial growth, but also to expand their political influence. But how did they go about dividing Africa? Enter the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 85. No, it wasn't a fancy party. It was a meeting where European powers decided how to divide Africa. Imagine slicing up a pizza without asking the pizza if it wants to be sliced. Spoiler alert, Africa didn't have a say. Colonization kicked off with European countries rushing to claim territories. Britain, France, Germany, Portugal, they were all in on it. They set up colonies, but guess what? African peoples resisted. Leaders like Ethiopia's Menelik II stood their ground, winning battles and keeping their land, but let's talk consequences. The scramble for Africa left a messy legacy. Artificial borders split tribes and communities, causing conflicts that still affect Africa today. Cultures were disrupted and the continent's development took a major hit. The Berlin Conference was a pivotal moment. European leaders sat around a table drawing lines on a map, with little regard for the people who lived there. They were more interested in their own power and wealth. The rush for land was frantic. European countries sent explorers, soldiers and settlers to claim as much territory as possible. They planted flags, built forts and established control over vast areas. But the African people didn't just sit back and watch, they fought back. There were numerous uprisings and battles. Some were successful, like the Ethiopians under Menelik II, who managed to defeat the Italians at the Battle of Adwa. However, many African societies were overwhelmed by the superior military technology of the Europeans. The colonizers had guns, cannons and other advanced weapons, which made it difficult for the African warriors to defend their lands. The Europeans exploited Africa's resources, extracting gold, diamonds, rubber and other valuable commodities. They built railways and ports to transport these resources back to Europe, further enriching themselves at the expense of the African people. The impact on Africa was devastating. Traditional economies were disrupted and many people were forced into labor.